Welcome to this presentation on Packet Tracer. It's a tool that we use to simulate networks, and we're going to be looking at how you could use Packet Tracer to teach the new National Computing curricula as part of CAS. So, a bit more on Packet Tracer. It's a tool that's been used in the Cisco Network Academy program for many years now, and has been developed by Cisco to teach networking. We're now looking at using it within the Computing at Schools agenda as an alternative to building physical networks. So here the window on the left shows us a typical Packet Tracer network that we can investigate, and as we said, it's working with Computing at Schools to deliver this to schools across the UK. So a bit more detail about what Packet Tracer can do. First of all, it allows us to build and simulate computer networks. It does this by giving us access to a wide range of devices and cables. Now there's many more available within Packet Tracer than we'll ever need for CAS, but there's certainly enough devices to build networks suitable for schools. And what we can do is we can customize some devices and put different interfaces in there, allowing us to make different connections. And when we plan it out, we get a logical view of the network, which just gives us kind of an overview, a picture, a sketch, but it also allows us to physically place them in an imaginary landscape with cities and rooms and houses, etc. When we actually get the network up and running, it allows us to visualize the packets running around the network, and as they're traversing between devices, it allows us to click on the packets and inspect them to see what they're carrying. And the end stations are simulated by virtual PCs, which have got fairly simple interfaces but have a DOS prompt and a basic web browser, so we can actually use the network. And it allows us to take all of that content and arrange them in a physical world view, so we can see where various devices would be. And obviously, finally, having built the network, it allows us to get in there and configure some of the devices to make our network work. And typically in the home environment, we'll be using devices that you would typically see in the home, such as Linksys routers, Netgear, etc. How does this help us deliver the new national curricula in computing? Well, at Key Stage 2, it's in there. People should be taught to understand computing networks and a bit about the internet, and understand the difference between the internet and the World Wide Web, and how we use them. At Key Stage 3, you step up quite a gear and understand how networks are made up, how devices interact, and in more detail how the internet works. So there's quite a lot more opportunity in there. And at Key Stage 4, we obviously expect people to take all of that knowledge further and really get into the grips of how networking works. So that's why we're looking at it. So hopefully you're going to find this an interesting presentation and consider using Packet Tracer to deliver some parts of the new National Computing curricula. So let's have a look at the basics of Packet Tracer. Let's look how we'd build a network and how we'd connect the wires and the wireless up to make it work. So here's the basic interface to Packet Tracer. It gives us a blank canvas on which to work. So let's get on and build our network. First of all, I'm going to select a typical home router. In this case it's a Linksys one. And we're going to generate some network end devices. PC, typical desktop type PC. I think I'll have a couple in my home. I'll take a laptop and I'll take a smart device. A lot of people have got those nowadays. So I've dropped all those onto the desktop, and let's start connecting them and see what happens. And before we've even started, you can see the smartphone is actually connected to the wireless router. Why is that? Well, the wireless router is actually set up with the default settings and no security, so the PDA didn't need anything special to connect, and it's gone ahead and connected. Let's look at the PCs then first of all. Well, obviously these are going to be cabled into our router. I can have a quick look at our router. We'll click on it and we get a physical view of it because of the physical tab up here. We can see the back of our typical home router with the blue internet connection and our 4 Ethernet connections for our internal LAN. So we know what physically the device looks like. We need to go and find some cables, just see where we're plugging it in. Let's have a quick look at the PC. Again, the physical view, and we can see down here at the bottom we've got the Ethernet port to plug in the cabling for our PC. So we go and select our cables from over here, and the one we want is a copper straight through, so I select that. You can see I've got a little RJ45 on the end there. Click it onto the PC. I've got a choice of where to plug it, into the fast Ethernet and over to the Linksys router into one of the LAN ports, and I'll get another cable and do the same for the second computer. So that's our two PCs connected. The lights are on orange at the moment, it's just waiting to bring the link up. Little protocol's running to check for no loops. Let's have a look at the laptop here. This doesn't seem to have connected. I wonder why not. So we click on the laptop, we're in the physical view. Just scroll down, I can see the side of my laptop here, and this laptop's got an Ethernet card in. So I want to get rid of that, so I've got to turn my laptop off, throw the Ethernet card away, take a wireless card and pop that in, and switch my PC back on, my laptop back on, and there you go, the laptop's connected now. So we've got our basic connectivity, we've got our wireless connectivity, we've got our wired connectivity, and it shows you how easy it is to build a network. So next we're going to have a look at a bit more on the basics. Having built our network, look how we're going to configure it, and have a little look at the IP addresses and how we set the wireless up properly with some security. Okay, so let's have a little look at the network. If we hover over the PCs here, we should get some information. Just pop up in a minute. There we go. We can see that the fast Ethernet address isn't up. There's no IP address on the PCs. Just check the other PC. Again, no IP address. Check the PDA over here. It does have an IP address. It's got the IP address 192.168.0.100. So these PCs don't seem to have got IP addresses. Let's have a quick look why. If we click on the PC, we can go to the config tab or to the desktop tab, look at the IP configuration, and it's got static set there. We should be learning our IP addresses through DHCP, so I'll click that and hey presto, we get an IP address. Okay, so that PC now has got an IP address, and this PC here also needs one, so we'll do the same again. This time I'll do it through the config tab, go to the fast Ethernet address, and here you can see it's set for static but hasn't been specified, so I'll put it on for DHCP again, and it's now learned the address from the router. So that's how we've got the IP addresses on these machines. The PDA has already got its IP address because it was set for DHCP by default, and the laptop looks like that was default DHCP as well. So that's got the IP addresses sorted out. What about the wireless security? Both the PDA and the laptop connected wirelessly to the router without any special security. So let's configure some security on our router. So we click on the router. Here's our physical view. What we can now do is go to the GUI, the graphical user interface. We can click on that, and if people are familiar with this, this is pretty much like any home router that you would typically see. Panels are very similar, obviously just minor changes between the various brands. So what we want to do is go onto the wireless tab. You can see here it's got a default name advertising it. We're going to set this to CAS home, and I'm going to set that now. You'll notice whenever we change anything on the Linksys router, we must save the page before we move on, so click Save Settings there. We now want to put some security on here. Now you can see it was disabled. That's why these devices connected automatically. We're going to use WPA2 Personal, TKIP, and I'm going to put in a password of Cisco 123. And again, don't forget, click your save down the bottom there. Now when we come back to our view, you can see that neither the PDA nor the laptop are connected because obviously we haven't configured them yet for wireless. So let's go and get those connected. Click on the laptop, go to the desktop settings, and there's a bit of software here to do the wireless. If people are familiar with this, this is pretty much like the Linksys client software you get if you bought a Linksys adapter. So we want to connect to our network. It's looking around at the moment to see some wireless networks. It's found our CAS home network, so I'll click on that and hit connect. It's WPA2 Personal, and I should put in the key Cisco 123. Connect. And if that's worked, yep, we've got our connection to the laptop back. PDA, basically the same principle. The only thing here is on the desktop there isn't that particular bit of software to do the client-side settings, so it's a little bit more clunky. We've got to go into the configuration and the wireless tab, and we've got to actually type some things in here. So the SSID, if you remember, was CAS home. It was WPA2PSK with a password of Cisco 123, and we use TKIP. So that's all our settings for the wireless, and hopefully the PDA will connect. Okay, interestingly enough, it's not connected yet. Let's have a quick look why. Got CAS home as our SSID, WPA2, oh, I spelled Cisco wrong. There you go, that's how clever it is. Cisco 123, DHCP and TKIP. That all looks okay. And there we go, the PDA is connected. So that gives us the basics of how people at home, at school, would connect end devices, fixed computers or wireless devices to their network. Okay, having built our network, let's see what we can do with it. Well, we've not got much of a network yet, but we do have some end devices, so we should be able to see some packets flying around our network. Let's have a look at how we do that. Okay, so having got our network with all our IP addresses correct, let's just double check. We've got our PC here with the address 192.168.0.102 and our PC here 192.168.0.103. Presumably these two should be able to speak to each other, and we can indeed just check that out by connecting them. If we go onto our computer and the desktop, we've got a DOS prompt here. I can type IP config, see my own IP address 102, and I can ping the other computer, ping 192.168.0.103, and hit return, and indeed I get a ping reply, so I know I've got connectivity. Now if people are not familiar with ping and just want to check that they've got connectivity, we can get this packet here which does a simulation for us. We can click on one PC, we can click where we want it to go, and down here it tells me it was successful and it actually worked. What's much more interesting though is actually seeing that packet kind of in action. Wouldn't it be nice if we could actually see the packet flowing from this PC into the router and back out to this PC? Well, we can. We've got the simulation mode down here. So if I go for the simulation mode, I can now see I've got my packet up here, and if I press this capture forward button here, I can see the packet whizzing down to my router, and it's just arriving down there. And if I go a bit further, play it again, I can see it heading down to that PC. So it's sent a message down to this PC just to check it's there. And for those who are familiar with ping, if I continue the process, I'll know that it comes back to send the message back, getting back to the main PC to know it's got connectivity. If we want, we can actually click on the packet while it's in transit, and this will give us a huge amount of detail. It will tell me information about the various layers for the inbound and outbound packets, and we can look at the PDUs in detail, and we can see that it's an ICMP, which is a ping type message. So there's a huge amount of detail there. We'll just finish the process off, and yes, it returns to the PC. So we were able to visualize traffic very well. Big green tick there because our ping worked. So that gives you some idea of what we can do in Packet Tracer. Okay, so that concludes this very brief introduction to Packet Tracer. Hopefully it's given you a little bit of a flavour of what Packet Tracer can do and how we can use it to teach the new curricula for computing. If you're interested in more of the features, then look out for some more videos. Thanks very much. Bye.